Right. So who brings the adhan? Let me ask you this question. Let me ask you this question. Let me ask you this question. Where did Muhammad give the adhan? Show me the hadith where Muhammad gives the adhan. Show me the verse in the Quran where Muhammad gives the adhan. Go on, yeah. Go on.
To the best of my knowledge, he himself never gave the adhan.
Exactly. But yet, he said, yes, the adhan is part of divine revelation, but he's just said Muhammad didn't give it. So who gave it? I'll tell you. No, he's wrong again. He doesn't know his own deen. He doesn't know his own sources. And he doesn't even understand what I'm saying. According to his hadith, not Muhammad, but Abdullah bin Zaid brings the adhan. And he said the adhan is part of revelation.
Yeah, it is. You're repeating it.
Yes, it is. That means that Abdullah bin Zaid is bringing revelation to Muhammad. So who's the greater prophet, Muhammad or Abdullah bin Zaid?
Ask him.
That's the question. Who's the better prophet, Abdullah bin Zaid or Muhammad?
Okay, I'm gonna answer it and then give you a question. Are you okay with that?
Yes.
Okay, you said you're okay with that. So first of all, only Muhammad was the prophet, right? Okay. And let me ask you a question now. Shut up. Let me ask you a question now. Shut up.
He's rattled. He's rattled. He's losing.
Hold on.
He's losing.
Hold on. You said I could answer it in
yeah,
a question.
But you interrupted me, so don't whinge if I interrupt you.
Okay, so how about this? Shut up. How about this? According to the Bible.
According to a hadith found in Sunan Abu Dawud, we're told that in the early days of Islam, Muhammad was searching for a method to summon Muslims to congregational prayer. The initial options under consideration were borrowed from surrounding religious traditions, using a bell as practiced by Christians, or perhaps a trumpet, as was common among the Jews. But notably, there was no Qur'anic revelation or command from the angel Jibril to resolve this uncertainty. In that moment of ambiguity, Abdullah bin Zaid, a companion of the Prophet but not a prophet himself, had a dream. In it, he saw a man teaching him the words of what would become the adhan. When he awoke, he went to Muhammad and shared the dream in detail. What followed is theologically striking. Muhammad immediately accepted the dream without questioning it, without delay, and without correction. He then instructed that the very words from Abdullah's dream be used as the official call to prayer and ordered Bilal to proclaim them to the community. This raises a serious theological question. In the classical understanding of prophethood, a prophet is someone who receives divine revelation directly and serves as the primary source of religious instruction. But in this event, it wasn't Muhammad who received the guidance, it was Abdullah bin Zaid, through a dream. Not only did he dream, but that dream became the permanent foundation for a core Islamic ritual. That means the institution of the adhan did not come from a revelation to Muhammad, but from the private spiritual experience of someone else. This has significant implications. If such an essential aspect of Islamic worship came through a dream experience by a non-prophet and Muhammad adopted it without divine confirmation, then his role appears more like that of a religious administrator, not the original source of revelation. In the biblical tradition, this kind of dynamic would never occur. Prophets like Moses received direct instructions from God, whether through a burning bush or inscribed commandments. Even Jesus in the New Testament did not derive rituals from others, but taught with divine authority from the Father. From a Christian apologetic perspective, this raises a fundamental problem. If someone who is not a prophet can receive and introduce something so central to worship, then the line between revelation and tradition becomes dangerously blurred. In this case, Muhammad is not the origin of divine instruction, but rather a figure who relies on another's spiritual experience. So the question must be asked, who truly received the revelation that established the adhan, Muhammad or Abdullah bin Zaid?
According to the Bible, when the Gentile woman came to Jesus asking to be healed,
she didn't. She asked for her daughter to be healed.
Asked for her daughter
He
to
doesn't
be
even
healed.
know the story.
Asking for her daughter to be healed, right? Because she was possessed, correct? Right? Asking for her daughter to be healed. And his followers told Jesus to send her away. So you're telling me a follower is telling the leader to do something?
Yes.
So who's the better leader, the prophets or Jesus?
Right.
The followers of Jesus.
Yeah.
It's the same exact
right.
scenario.
So I'm going to address his point, and then I'm going to advance my own argument. So the fact of the matter is, the apostles did say to Jesus, Lord, send her away because she is tiring us out by her much complaining. But Jesus didn't send her away. And so Jesus was greater than his followers. But Muhammad, who he admits didn't give the adhan, was going to use the bell like the Christians as the call to prayer. Let me read Sunan Abu Dawud, Book 2, Hadith 498. When the messenger of Allah was about to order the use of a bell to call people to prayer, a man carrying a bell appeared to me in a dream. I said, O servant of Allah, will you sell the bell? He asked, what will you do with it? I replied, we will call people to prayer with it. He said, shall I not guide you? Everybody say, shall I not guide you?
Shall I not guide you?
Guide you.
Guide you.
Shall I not guide you to something better? I replied, certainly. And then he gives the adhan and the formula of the adhan. The next morning, Abdullah bin Zaid goes to Muhammad, the Prophet of Islam. To do what? To guide him to something better. Abdullah bin Zaid is guiding Muhammad to something better. When morning came, I went to the Messenger of Allah and informed him of what I had seen. He said, this is a true dream, inshallah. True dream. Get Bilal and teach him what you saw so that he can give the call to prayer. So in other words, Abdullah bin Zaid teaches Muhammad and teaches Bilal. So who's the prophet, Muhammad or Abdullah bin Zaid? Go on, answer that one. Answer that one.
This is how dumb your argument is. A man, to answer your question, first of all, the true prophet is Muhammad, not the other guy's name. Correct? Right? To add on to that, just because a guy gives an alternative does not mean he's taking the role of the person he gives the alternative to. Right? So hold on. You're telling me a prophet cannot humble himself and take teaching from someone else. However, you think, shut up. You're telling me a prophet cannot humble himself and take teaching from someone, but you believe God can humble himself and get killed? You are a hypocrite.
Right, guys, did you all hear the admission? Muhammad took teaching from Muhammad bin Zaid. But listen to his answer. Is the adhan the part of the Sharia of Allah?
Yes.
There you go. So Muhammad took the Sharia from Abdullah bin Zaid. He didn't reveal it. He received it from Abdullah bin Zaid. Where did Abdullah bin Zaid get the teaching from to give to Muhammad? Because according to Islam, he receives it from Allah. Everybody say Allah. So what are you? What are you if you receive teaching from Allah and you reveal it to other people? What are you? You're a prophet. So Abdullah bin Zaid is a prophet to Muhammad. So who's a greater prophet? Muhammad or Abdullah bin Zaid? Everybody say, Hail Abdullah bin Zaid.
In the true prophetic tradition, both in the Bible and even in Islamic theology, a prophet is someone who receives revelation directly from God and serves as the primary source of divine teaching, law, and worship. A prophet does not establish sacred rituals based on someone else's private spiritual experience, let alone a dream from an ordinary companion. But when it comes to the Islamic adhan, the call to prayer, we see something very different. Muhammad didn't receive any revelation from Allah, nor was there any message from the angel Jibril about what the call to prayer should be. Instead, it was Abdullah bin Zaid, a companion, not a prophet, not a messenger, and with no prophetic authority, who simply had a dream. That dream was then adopted by Muhammad, institutionalized, and used to this day as a core part of Islamic worship. The hadith found in Sunan Abu Dawud, number 499, records Muhammad's reaction clearly. He said, "Indeed, it is a true dream, if Allah wills. Go with Bilal and teach him what you saw. Let him call the adhan, for he has a stronger voice than you." And here lies the theological problem. There was no prophetic inquiry, no divine verification, no heavenly revelation. A dream, experienced by a non-prophet, became the basis for a central religious practice. Etymologically, the word used in the hadith is ruya, meaning a vision seen in sleep. It comes from the root, ra'ah, which means to see. In Islamic tradition, a ruya salihah, or righteous dream, may be seen as a form of inspiration, but it is never equated with legal, binding revelation. Prophets are supposed to receive commands through angels, not from someone else's dream. By making Abdullah bin Zaid's ruya the foundation for the adhan, Muhammad's role appears less like a divine prophet and more like a religious administrator implementing someone else's experience. From a Christian apologetic perspective, this raises serious questions. Was Muhammad truly acting as a prophet delivering God's revelation, or was he simply ratifying the spiritual visions of others? In the Old Testament, Moses received the full system of worship directly from God on Mount Sinai, not from Aaron and not from the people. Likewise, Jesus in the New Testament did not adopt rituals from the disciples. He instituted them with divine authority, saying, "Do this in remembrance of me." So when the adhan is not found in the Qur'an, not revealed through Jibril, and not established by Muhammad through divine instruction, the question must be asked, who was really acting as the prophet here, Muhammad or Abdullah bin Zaid? If one of Islam's core acts of worship came from the dream of a companion, not from divine revelation, how can the adhan be claimed as part of a final, perfect message from God?